Welcome students to RATS, Racing Against Time for Students in Pathology. I shall be continuing with part 2 of Diabetes mellitus. In this session, I shall be concentrating on the complications of diabetes mellitus. This is a usually asked question and the students usually give an answer of neuropathy, nephropathy, etc. Instead, it would be more pertinent if we can divide it thus: acute complications and chronic complications. Acute shall include metabolic acidosis, compensatory hyperventilation, where the patient presents with Kussmaul's respiration, osmotic diuresis, leading to a dehydration. And whenever there is a dehydration through polyuria, you find that there is a hyponatremia as well. Hyperkalemia also occurs due to decreased uptake of potassium by the cells. Finally, there can be a coma. So all these complications can be there, and any one of these would have been the cause in the case history that we had given. So please do remember the complications are acute complications and chronic complications. This is a very important and an impressive flowchart. In diabetes, we have a hyperglycemia, which leads to the accumulation of sorbitol and aldose reductase. This sorbitol, please do remember, it comes in your biochemistry, and this will be important in the pathogenesis of various organ damages, including retinopathy. So, accumulation of sorbitol, advanced glycation end products, activation of protein kinase C, angiogenic factors, and oxidative stress. This entire panel I want you people to by heart. Any of this can lead to either endothelial or metabolic dysfunction. So this is the key in a case of diabetes, which can get reflected in the form of retinopathy, neuropathy, or nephropathy. So let us see what all these pathies are. As mentioned earlier, this is a list for us to just memorize. We shall see what they are. There can be vascular diseases, which we shall be seeing, atherosclerosis and so on, diabetic retinopathy, nephropathy, and peripheral neuropathy, which can be because of the diversion of the glucose to the Schwann cells. Also, pregnancy or gestational diabetes can induce some changes in the fetus, resulting in big babies. So this list of complications, please do remember. In pathology, you will be asked complications of diabetes. As we had been mentioning earlier, students usually answer retinopathy, nephropathy, and neuropathy. Instead, I would like you people to answer it thus. In retinopathy, it can be either a proliferative or a non-proliferative lesion. Also, there can be glaucoma and cataract in addition to these. In nephropathy, it is not just one lesion in the kidney. We find that there can be a panel of changes, including fibrin caps, capsular drops, focal and diffuse glomerulosclerosis, called Kimmel-Still-Wilson lesions, necrotizing papillitis, hyaline arteriolosclerosis. See how many complications can be caused in the kidney itself. In addition to it, you can also have the Armani-Epstein lesion, which we shall be seeing. Neuropathy, the peripheral neuropathy can lead to ulcer of the foot or to muscular weakness. Apart from these three, cardiovascular complication is also very, very important, which can result in gangrene of the extremities, particularly the foot. Stroke patient can go in for ischemic attack. And the third one can be myocardial infarction. These are important complications. Kindly by heart this entire table. Coming to the kidney itself, as I told you earlier, a lot of changes can be formed. Hyaline arteriolosclerosis. I am deliberately repeating these. Focal nodular sclerosis. Diffuse glomerular sclerosis. Thickening of the basement membrane. In spite of the thickening, we find that there is a leakage owing to change in the chemical configuration resulting in glycosuria. Capsular drops, fibrin caps, Armani-Epstein lesions, and necrotizing papillitis. Let us see what these are. Look at this gross specimen of the kidney. The cut surface, it is showing the renal pyramids, but then there are whitish areas of necrosis. But the strange thing is, if this is going to be the renal pyramid, the entire renal pyramid is not involved. Part of it is involved. Maybe up to 2/3 can be involved, 1/3 is spared. That is characteristic of diabetic necrotizing papillitis. This is in fact a variant of chronic pyelonephritis. Another change is hyalinization of the blood vessels. So these are all the renal tubules and these are the small caliber blood vessels. And I find that there is a eosinophilic acellular material that is getting deposited and it is causing a compromise in the vascular lumen. This is called as hyalinization of the blood vessels, which is characteristic of diabetes. This is a glomerulus. As I mentioned earlier, the kidney has got a glomerulus, the tubule, the supporting interstitium, and the blood vessel. These are the four parts. We will concentrate on the glomerulus alone now. I find within the glomerulus there is a eosinophilic material that is being deposited in a cap-like form, and that is called a capsular drop. This is an exudate mainly. This can be found in diabetes, capsular drops, and in the periphery of the glomerulus, I find that there is fibrin or fibroblast-like material which is getting deposited, which is called as fibrin caps. So capsular drops, fibrin caps. Focal and segmental or diffuse glomerulosclerosis. You find that the glomerulus is basically a tuft of capillaries. These are all many capillary tufts, but in some, I find that there is a eosinophilic material. Initially, it is limited to one or two areas, so it is called as focal and segmental. All the glomeruli need not be involved, but later on, it becomes more diffuse. Almost all the capillaries are involved and all the glomeruli can be involved. So focal segmental to diffuse glomerulosclerosis. This we had already seen. The other element that can be affected will be the renal tubules. This is a black and white picture, a beautiful picture. I find that some of the tubules are having almost colorless cytoplasm within it. That is because the reabsorption of glycogen. Once the glycogen passes through, it is reabsorbed and glycogen is colorless. That is why you get this colorless cytoplasm. This is also reflected in the H&E stain. I find that the tubular epithelium is showing colorless vacuoles. So these lesions are called as Armani-Epstein lesions. Armani-Epstein lesion is one of my favorite questions. What is this particular structure? I find that this is a tubular organ which has got some kind of, are you able to see small openings over here? These are all ostia. The moment I see it, I can identify it as aorta. But otherwise, it is totally disfigured. I am finding areas of hemorrhage, patchy, gray white, elevated plaques, and these are called as atheromatous plaques or atheromatous lesions. They are irregular and almost the entire surface here is getting covered, an advanced stage of atherosclerosis, which can be due to diabetes mellitus as one of the components. It is generally used to be present because of increased cholesterol and so on and so forth. So that is atherosclerosis. And the same aorta, I find that it is getting distended into a bag-like form, which is called an aneurysm. An aneurysm is an abnormal dilatation of a blood vessel. So it gets distended. And within that, I am finding layers of some material being deposited, which is the mural thrombus. Mural thrombus is a thrombus that occurs in a large chamber. So all are complications of diabetes. Diabetes, of course, is not the only element. It is one of the important components that can cause atherosclerosis, aneurysm, and mural thrombus. Myocardial infarction, extremely important. This is obviously a post-mortem specimen of the heart. So I find that there are some pale gray-white areas, very well demarcated. This is an example of a white infarct, pointed out by means of the arrow. This can occur whenever there is an occlusion of the ostia of the coronary arteries, which are seen over here. The entire thing is a lumen, but see, there is something that is projecting into the lumen, something else being deposited. Therefore, there is a compromise in the lumen size. Also, there can be small emboli can be produced from this, which can lead to further obstruction. So, resulting in myocardial infarction, for which diabetes mellitus is again one of the most important risk factors. The others being hyperlipidemia, hypertension, and smoking. We shall be seeing this in detail in systemic pathology. Extremities. So this is an extremity. I find that there is a blackish discoloration. Apart from that, the entire region appears swollen and there is no clear-cut area. Even this area, I won't say it is healthy. So there is no clear demarcation between the healthy and the viable area. It is an example of a wet gangrene. So you people should know what are all the differential diagnoses, the difference between a dry gangrene and a wet gangrene, etc. The other lesions in the foot can be the peripheral artery disease. The peripheral artery disease narrowing can be there, leading to necrosis, or there can be a sensory neuropathy. And the patient will not have any sensation at all. He will get repeatedly traumatized by means of pricks, etc. There can be ulcers at the foot. Also, there can be auto amputation of the digits, which can happen because of traumatization. Look at this. There can be the damaged nerves, which leads to sensory neuropathy. There can be the obstruction to the blood vessels, which can lead to gangrene of the extremities. There can be trophic ulcers. Because of the pressure effects, it can happen. So these are some of the important lesions that you people should be having in mind. The ocular changes will include, look at this one, beautiful pair of eyes. Only thing, one eye is showing an opaque element, and that is a diabetic cataract. You cannot see through it. So it is a cataract. Or there can be a pressure building within the posterior chamber leading to what is called as a glaucoma. Two important complications in a case of diabetes, a diabetic glaucoma and a diabetic cataract. Diabetic retinopathy is yet another one. This is a very fantastic diagram. I find that there is a normal retina that is shown in the upper half and a diseased retina in the lower half for comparison. This is a fovea just away from the midline and the optic disc. So here the blood vessels are normal, the background is normal, there is no lesion. But here I find that there are some yellowish or yellowish white spots which are called as cotton wool spots of exudates. Also, there can be bleeding from the blood vessels which leads to retinal hemorrhage. If you look carefully, there can be distension of the blood vessels which are called as microaneurysms, small aneurysms. Look at this one, there are microaneurysms which can be seen. Neovascularization is the formation of new blood vessels from which again hemorrhage can occur. So this is very important. I would like you people to remember the cotton wool spots, the areas of hemorrhage, then microaneurysms. What can be the clinical presentation in the case of diabetes? Glucosuria leading to polyuria, polydipsia due to activation of the thirst center, polyphagia due to the loss of glucose and protein. Breakdown of fat may result in loss of weight, recurrent infections, and tuberculosis in particular. These are all some of the clinical manifestations that you can see in diabetes. The laboratory diagnosis, that can be the urine examination and the blood examination. In the urine, you do what is called as a Benedict's test. Then there can be a reagent strip test or a clinic test, tablet test. By this, we'll be able to find out the reducing substances in the urine. There is also a quantitative or a semi-quantitative Benedict's. So this can be done in the urine. And whom will you do? Any patient who has got obese stature, family history, hypertension, or impaired GTT, all can be subject to routine investigation. Now we shall move on to blood investigations in diabetes. The various investigations and the values are given. Fasting blood sugar, postprandial blood sugar, HbA1c, a very important parameter in the retrospective control of diabetes in a person. In this one, up to 5.5 is normal, up to 6.5% is called impaired, and more than 6.5% is called poor control. So this is a very important parameter. Next is the glucose tolerance test. When a patient is on the borderline, we try to do the GTT and confirm whether he is a diabetic or not. And the values are given. In a normal person, the fasting sugar is less than 110 millimeters of mercury, whereas in diabetes, it is more than 126. After 1 hour, you find it is less than 160 in diabetes and less than 140 after 2 hours, whereas even after 2 hours, it is more than 200 and does not come down to the baseline in a case of diabetic patient. Now this is a 5-hour test and this has been replaced by a mini GTT. 5-hour tester, 5-time tester. Blood investigations in diabetes shall include the fasting blood sugar. Important, and this is a normal value. The next is the postprandial blood sugar and the value is again given. One of the important investigations will be HbA1c to find out the glycosylated hemoglobin. Normally it is 5.5%, but when it is up to 6.5, it is called as impaired tolerance. And when it is more than 6.5%, it is called as a poor control. One other test is the conventional GTT or the glucose tolerance test, which is done with 5 samples being collected. And the values are given over here. In the fasting, you find it is 110, whereas in diabetes is 126 milligrams. After 2 hours, it is less than 140 milligrams. It comes down, whereas it persists to be high in a case of diabetic patient and does not come to the baseline. This TDS test is now replaced by a mini GTT and the normal value is given over here and the value in a case of diabetic is this. So the entire panel of investigation should be there. When you people are asked, you should be mentioning what is the urine examination, what is the blood examination, etc. We shall be seeing this in detail in the laboratory investigations. Also, a lipid profile is extremely important and that will be forming part of the investigations in diabetes because cholesterol and diabetes, they go hand in hand. I would like you people to kindly include this also. So a summary of it, microalbuminuria is another one. Ketone bodies, you people already know, that is acetone, acetoacetic acid, and beta hydroxybutyric acid. And these are the 3 investigations, please mention them. Rothras, Selinas, and Gerard's test. And these are the conditions where you will see the ketone bodies. This is a section of the pancreas and that is showing somewhat a homogeneous eosinophilic material which is amyloid. This can lead to hypoplasia. It can occur in the case of a mother and pregnant mother and there is a hypoplasia, therefore there will not be any insulin secretion. There will be a hyperglycemia and the blood glucose level, it crosses over to the fetus. In order to metabolize it, the fetal islet cells are increased, which is called as hyperplasia. In this condition, there is hypoplasia of the islet cells. Here, there is hyperplasia of the islet cells. In addition, in the pancreas, we can find pancreatitis, amyloidosis, and fibrosis. So these are all the changes which can be found in the pancreas. This is the last organ to be included. Please do mention all this under the organ changes in diabetes. Gracias.